All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So today we are bringing you live the 2022 National Cycling Event from Anguilla. We have a number of different cyclists in different categories. I don't have that information with me right now, but I'll be sure to confirm the cyclists as soon as I can get that information to you. So right now everyone is basically together in the same group. The race just started, and I believe the route is they're supposed to go to Western first, and then they'll be doing a number of different laps around the Jeremiah Highway. All right, so the cyclists are just getting out of Blowing Point, heading towards the Asian TH primary school, and we can see a gap being created. I believe this is a master cyclist being gapped by the group, and so far it looks like Delroy is the one that's in front, doing the groundwork, leading, leading the leading the group. So once they get out of Blowing Point, they'll be heading to Western, where they'll be doing one lap, and I believe they'll be going to Sandy Ground and back down to the start finish line on Jeremiah Highway. And then once they pass the finish line, they'll be doing a number of laps between Jeremiah Highway, George Hill, and Blowing Point. Depending on the category, they'll be doing a different number of laps. I don't have that information with me as yet, but as soon as I do, I'll be sure to update you as to how many laps each group is going to be doing. So they would have just passed the stoplight heading west, and now they're on their way down to Western. So it looks like Shortman is now taking a pull on the front, and he is followed by James, and right behind him would be Zambezi, and behind Zambezi we have Delroy. The cyclist on the back of the group, that's Tehran Hajkati. I'm not sure which category he's going to be in today, but normally I know he rides the sport or the novice. Also in the race, I'm seeing Kylan. Kylan would be riding in the elite category. And we have James to the front now, doing some pulling. And now we have Zambezi going to the front, so giving James a little bit of a break. So Zambezi is the one in charge now. A little bit of jockeying for position. And James taking up the rear position, just trying to get a little bit of a breather. No major gaps, no attacks as yet. I believe you'll probably see that a little bit later in the race, or possibly when the guys are heading back into the wind. They may look into, attacking each other at that point. But right now everybody's just taking it easy. Heading to West End, so we will just pass Dungeon Gym. And Zambezi is still to the front, setting the pace for the group. Just passing the NCBA branch in Weston, heading to the stoplight. Trying to see how fast they're going. Okay, it looks like that cyclist there is Dimitri. I didn't make him out before, so Dimitri is also in the race. I'm not sure which category he's in, but he would definitely be in one of the younger categories. And we had one cyclist look like he pulled up, so I don't know if he had a little bit of a mishap, but a little bit of a gap would have created. So the guys are doing just about 60 kilometers, just passing the stoplight in Weston. Here we have another junior cyclist being gapped by the elite guys. So I guess the pressure is getting a little bit too hard for them. So this is a cyclist out of Weston. He would also be a younger cyclist, but I'm not 100% sure of the category. So we're just going to stay with the elite group for now. We can always get an update on the other categories later on. So I have the information here with me now. So as I said before, just to go over the route one more time, it begins on the Jeremiah Highway, and cyclists will make their way west, make a right turn at the junction to go towards the Southall traffic light, make a left to go to the foot of Weston, turn on the junction to Cove Castles and head back to South Hill. Then they go to Santa Ground, turning at a junction on the Big Wharf, back up the hill, making a right at a roundabout, and back to the South Hill traffic light, making a left into Blind Point and back to the Jeremiah Highway. Now once that is done, the cyclists will make laps around the Jeremiah Highway South Hill loop, which is up to the George Hill traffic light, making a left to the roundabout, down to South Hill traffic light, into Blind Point and back to the start finish line. So once they finish the big loop, the elites would be doing 6 laps around the Jeremiah South Hill loop. The juniors would be doing 4 laps. The masters and cadets will be doing 2, and the novice will be doing 3. So just to repeat, 1 big lap, everybody has to do that down to Western Santa Ground and back to the start finish line on the Jeremiah Highway. And then a number of laps around the Jeremiah South Hill loop. And The elites would be doing 6, the juniors would be doing 4, the masters and cadet would be doing 2, and the novice would be doing 3. So here we have, I believe this is Taran Hajkati. He might be riding in the novice. So he is being gapped, but he did really well because he held on to the group for quite a distance. So I guess he'll be on his own for a bit. And to the front, we look as if Delroy is the one that's now setting the pace for the elite category. So the elite category has basically weeded everybody else out of their group, so they are now amongst themselves. No more cadet, no more novice amongst them. And here we have Delroy setting the pace going up the hill, just passing the Capjaluca gap. So they'll be going to the tip of West End, where they'll be making a turn and heading back up and into Santa Ground. Quite a hot day. Really not too windy, so hopefully heading into the wind shouldn't be too much of a challenge for them. But coming out of Western is always a challenge because you do have a number of inclines to get over. Plus you have to deal with the wind. And here we have to the front of the group now is Shortman, followed by Zambezi, Delroy, and then we have Kylon, and in last place is James. So all elite category in this group right now. So just passing the entrance to Altima. A little bit of a decline. Passing the Church of God of Prophecy. And the guys will soon be making their turn and heading back in the opposite direction. Where from there they'll be heading to Santa Ground. Then back out of Santa Ground. Heading west to South Hill. And then back to the start-finish line where they'll begin the smaller loop between Jeremiah and South Hill. So just doing about 70k on a little decline. And here they are now at the turning point. So they'll be getting ready to head back up. It will be a bit more of a challenge because, as I said, they have to face the wind. And they'll also be dealing with a number of inclines. Alright, and heading west is Tehran, so he would be leading the pack for the novice. He was the last to get dropped from the elite group, so he's doing very well. And here we have the guys now heading out of West End, doing about 30 kilometers, being led by Delroy, followed by Zambezi, Kylon, James, and Shortman. And here we have Shortman hitting an attack. Shortman is going. Will anybody follow? Zambezi is following him, not letting him get too far. So now we're starting to see some action here. So Continue up the small incline, still led out by Short Man, but everybody is still basically still together. Still all in the race, so Short Man is probably just testing out the guys, just to see how their legs are doing. And he goes again. Another attack by Short Man. Zambezi goes with him. And there we have James, a little bit of a gap. Zambezi and Short Man. But Delroy is clawing his way back into the group, followed by Kylan and James. So no escapes as yet. And here we have Delroy now leading the group. Let's see if anybody else will try and attack. Okay, so we have Delroy now doing the groundwork for the group. Increase the pace slightly to about 40 kilometers, but as I said, they are going into the headwind. And coming down here, we have, I believe this will be the first cyclist I would have gotten dropped from the group. He's probably in the Masters category. And it looks like we have a cyclist, one of the junior cyclists. Look like he may have had a mechanical or flat. He is off of his bike walking on the road, so I believe he may have had a mishap, unfortunately. But these things do happen in cycling. So I guess his day is done. So Short Man back to the front, setting the pace for the group. And James in the sofa seat, just trying to relax as much as possible. So just coming down the hill and heading up to Best Buy West. So they'll be heading straight to South Hill and then down to Sand Ground before they make their way back up the hill. So Short Man just taking a breather. He's come to the back of the pack just to get a little bit of a refresher. Some energy back in those legs. So normally how it goes, the guy in the front is normally the one that's doing the most work. And the guy in the back, we normally say, well, he's in the sofa seat because he's the most sheltered. So would have the least amount of work to do in the group. And now we see Delroy now taking up the sofa seat, and Zambezi is the one leading the charge now. Just doing about 35k. Everybody is basically working together. So now we have James taking a pull, and Zambezi coming to the back. So just asking all motorists, if you're on the route, anywhere on the route, please be sure to look out for the cyclists and make sure you give the cyclists as much room as possible by pulling on the side of the road and driving at a moderate to slow pace, just so we can ensure that we have a safe, all of these cyclists can go back to their families safe and sound. Really appreciate your cooperation. So once again, this is the 2022 National Cycling Race for Anguilla. Number of different categories. The guys are just making their way through the first loop, which was to head to West End. They are now heading out of West End and will be making their way to Southall. And there we have Shortman now trying to get away from the group a little bit, setting a little bit of a harder pace. Kylan is trying to close in the gap. And there we have Zambezi pulling the others back to the group. So they were able to get back onto him. So no major gaps as yet, but so far Shortman is the one that's basically testing everyone else out. And here he goes back in the sofa seat just to relax a little bit. And Delroy is the one now setting the pace. Just past Kimi on the road. I thought Kimi would have been in this race, but I guess he may have been busy. So still maintaining a pace of about 35k, heading out of West End. Group being led by James, followed by Zambezi, Delroy, Kylan, and Shortman making up the rear. So Zambezi was pulling, just made his way so that Delroy could do some work. So the guys would have just passed Anguilla Trading, so they're now in South Hill. And from here they'll be heading up to the roundabout and down to Sand Ground. And then back out of Sand Ground and back to the start finish line via Blowing Point. And then from there they'll be doing 6 laps going around the Jeremiah South Hill loop. So far Shortman I would say is the one that's doing the most work in the group. He's taking quite a few turns in the front. Setting the pace now at about 40 kilometers, more on a relatively flat terrain. Everyone's still looking relatively fresh, so I don't see any gaps right now. And here we have Zambezi looking like he's getting ready to set an attack. And there we have Delroy. Okay, so we have a little bit of a gap between Kylan and Shortman. And Shortman trying to close it back, and James hanging on to Shortman trying to get back to the front 3 riders. So there he was able to close it in. So a little bit of an acceleration from Delroy just now. So passing the South Hill stoplight. Heading to Rumcan. Quite a hot day, so the guys are drinking quite a bit of water, ensuring that they stay hydrated. And just passing Ease Oven, doing about 30 kilometers now. So all of the elite cyclists are still together. Okay, so I see Zambezi would have dropped a bottle earlier but was able to get it back. Thank you very much, G. I believe this is probably the second race that we would have had since the COVID lockdowns. So I am sure that the guys are quite happy you know, to be back on their bikes racing each other. And I believe the John T should be coming up in the next couple of weeks, so that's another big cycling race we can look forward to. Alright, so the guys are soon going to be heading Sand Ground, making the turn at the junction to go to the big wharf, and then they should be making their way back out. Might see some action on the hill. I believe Zambezi might be one of the strongest cyclists coming over the hill, so he may want to hit a few attacks, see if he could create a gap or two with the guys before they get out of the hill. But we'll have to wait and see, but not long to wait. So just passing Hall's Bakery, heading to the roundabout, and then we'll be making their way into Sand Ground. So going down the hill, the guys can easily be hitting about 100 kilometers. Right now we are clocking about 80. So you have Kylan on the outside, group led by Delroy, followed by Zambezi, James in third, and Shortman making up the rear. And there's the turning point, so they will make their way around the cone. Okay, so the guys will soon be climbing. Let's see if any one will be shaking the tree. Being led by Zambezi. Okay, so I believe the other cyclists are aware that this is probably Zambezi's strong point, so they're gonna stay on his wheel and wait for him to make a move and try to follow before they get to the top of the hill. Alright, so they're just starting the climb now, still being led by Zambezi. James seems to be turning a very light gear. Short man a slightly harder gear. And here we have Zambezi, still leading the group, starting to accelerate a little bit. And here we have the other cyclists from the different categories making their way down the hill. Zambezi just looking back, seeing who's on his wheel and slowly turning it up. Delroy staying very close to him. Okay. Everybody's still maintaining, still staying within the group, and there we have Zambezi now turning up a little bit more. A gap being created, James is being dropped. Short man making his way past James, trying to close back in the group. And there we have it. Quite a pace being set by Zambezi, and James unfortunately couldn't hold on to it, and he has now been gapped by the group. But Delroy still holding on to Zambezi, followed by Kylan, and Short man clawing his way back to the group. And here we have Zambezi now, a little bit of a gap on. So just making their turn, they'll be heading back down to Blowing Point. So it looks like we have one of the cyclists that would have abandoned the race. So this would have been the cyclist in the novice category. So it looks like he would have abandoned because he did not go to Sandground. Yeah. So no sign of James. So I believe James, it's going to be a bit of a challenge for him to close this group back in. Didn't see him in the rearview mirror window. But we still have the four other elite cyclists together. And there it looks like Delroy hitting a little bit of an attack, setting a harder pace, followed by Zambezi and Kylan, and then Short man making up the rear. Doing about 60 kilometers now, heading into Blowing Point. Okay, so the guys are heading back to the start finish line now, and now they'll be starting the first lap of the smaller loop. So it's gonna be 6 of them they have to do. So now, starting number 1. So if you're home, you can still make your way down here to catch the end of the race. Still quite a few more laps to go. See a few spectators already starting to build up. And leading the race right now is Delroy, followed by Zambezi, Kylan, and Shotman. Checking my rearview mirror to see if I see any sign of James, but no sign of him as yet. Oh, he's right here. Oh, so James is making his way back to the group. Okay, he should be able to close them back in. So James did very well. He was able to fight his way back up. He's just making his way past the vehicle I'm in right now. I'll just give you a highlight, and there is Mr. James. James was able to get back into the group. Job well done, James. So now we have all of the elite cyclists back together again. So James was dropped on the sandy ground hill, but he was able to fight and get his way back into the main group. So just a reminder, the race is now going to be going around the Jeremiah South Hill Loop. So if you're on the road, please be sure to drive carefully and give the cyclists as much room as possible as they pass your vehicles. We're trying to get them more water. Alright, apologies, but we're just making some room for a support car. Trying to get a bottle of water to the cyclists. Yeah. Right. Time to go ahead. Alright, so there we have Zambezi setting the pace, followed by Delroy. I believe Shotman is now looking for some help. So hopefully his support car is somewhere close by to give him some refreshments. A bit of a gap being created. So just as a reminder, the guys are now in their first lap for the second part of the route, which is the Jeremiah South Hill Loop, and they'll be doing 6 of them. So right now they're just in the process of starting the first one. Lee Shortman is still looking for his support car. See him looking back. Still seems to have some water in his bottle, so not sure if he has a mechanical or some other issue that may need checking. Okay, so we're just giving some room to the support car so that they can tend to the cyclists. So here we have James leading the group now, followed by Delroy, Kylan, Zambizi, and Shortman is back with the group. Yeah. So James in a much lighter gear than the rest of the group. Spinning his legs a lot faster. And here we have Delroy on the small incline. Should be making their way down to the stoplight where they would have covered just about half of the loop. And then they'll be making their way to Blowing Point and back to the start finish line. So everyone's still together, and James should be relieved that he wouldn't be going back to Sandy Ground, because I believe he is probably the weakest climber in the group right now. But fortunately, the inclines that they have to ride now are nowhere as steep, so hopefully he can stay with the group for the remainder of the race until the guys are ready to sprint it out for the end. Alright, short man accelerating a bit on the last hill. We have Kimi doing some feeding. And the guys are now making their way down the Joshua stretch. Seen a couple spectators just coming out to support the cyclists. Okay, short man on the outside. And there we have short man with a sudden acceleration. The rest of the group scrambling to hold on to him. Here we have Kylan and James in the back. So once they would have passed the stoplight, this would be the much easier stretch of the route because it's mostly downhill from here. And they've accelerated quite a bit. They're doing about 60 kilometers right now, being led by Shortman. And this is lap 1 of 6 for the smaller loop of the route. And there we have Shortman again. A sudden acceleration. Zambezi holding on to him. There we have Delroy clawing his way back up, followed by Kylan and James. So no gaps being created. But Shortman is definitely trying to create some gaps within the group. And there we have Shortman again, another acceleration. Nobody is going with Shortman this time. Zambezi looks like he's collecting some water from his dad. And Shortman has created quite a gap on the guys. Wow. So it looks like Shortman was setting up the guys. And Shortman has exited the group and no one is following. So Shortman does have quite a lead on the group right now. The guys are just looking at each other lost, like who should go next, and nobody is going. Zambezi said, I tried and I've had enough. Delroy, he's like, hell no. And we have Kylan now leading the group, followed by James, and Shortman has exited the group. And no one wants to lead a group to see if they can close back in Shortman. Everybody's just discussing amongst each other who should go, and no one is going. So we did see early in the race, Shortman was the one that was constantly attacking the group, trying to hurt their legs, and I guess he saw that the guys were hurting and decided that he was going to go. He wasn't going to be holding on anymore. But let's see, Zambezi looked like he caught a win, so he's now starting to accelerate a bit. So let's see if these guys will be able to close back in Shortman. But I would say he's about 300 meters ahead of the guys right now, so they do have quite a lot of work to do, but they do have an advantage in numbers, so if they do work together, they should be able to close him back in. But everybody would have to play their part and help each other out. So for those of you just joining, right now the leader of the race is Shortman. He attacked the group in Joshua just before the stoplight, and he was able to create a gap. And the second group would be made up of Kylan, James, Zambezi, and Delroy. Nobody was able to follow Shortman on that blistering attack that he did in Joshua. Okay, so the guys are now passing Rumken, and Shotman is now, wow, Shotman is now making the left turn at a stoplight. So if the guys work together, they should be able to close in the group. And here we have Zambeza now trying to set a pace to see if he can close back in Shotman, and Delroy is following him, followed by James and Kylan. So the action is starting to pick up. Alright, so the motorists, just a reminder, please give the cyclists as much room as you can once they're passing you on the route. And again, the route is between the Jeremiah, Georgial, Southall, Blowing Point Road. So just be sure to look out for the cyclists and give them as much room as possible. And if you happen to be on the road in that area, just drive as carefully as possible. Alright, so the guys can still see Shotman, but not able to really close the distance. Still has about a 300-meter gap ahead of him. Sorry, behind of him. He has a 300-meter gap on them. And no one is really making an effort to try to close the group. We did see Zambeza try to close the gap earlier, but now we have James in the front. Alright. I have some goats crossing the road. Not good for the guys, would have slowed them down quite a bit. Yeah. So I have Mano here with me, and Mano was saying that the guys should have tried to catch Shotman before they head back into the wind. That it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to catch him once he starts to make his way east on the Jeremiah Highway. And I believe he is correct, even though they have larger numbers. It seems as if Shotman is quite a lot stronger than them. So they're going to have to work smartly and work together if they're going to try to hope to catch him. But he's still maintaining the gap. The guys are not able to close him. They were able to see him just now before he banked around the corner. And that's always an advantage for the cyclists behind, because it works as a bit of a carrot. So you can see the cyclists, so you feel a little bit more motivated to continue working to try to close in the gap. But once they're out of sight, you kind of lose motivation and interest. So hopefully they can at least keep him in sight so that they can maintain that motivation. Alright, so we're back on the Jeremiah Highway now, and the guys are now starting their second lap. And there we have Zambeza setting a blistering pace, trying to close back in the gap to Shotman. Let's see how long he can maintain it for. But I think instead of doing that, you should be setting a pace that everybody can maintain, so that everybody can continue working together. But if he's going to be setting that hard pace, it's going to kill the legs of the weaker cyclists, and they won't be able to make much of a contribution. So not much benefit in doing that right now. Because you see, now that he's pulled up, nobody is really willing to continue pulling, because they would have had to make quite a big effort in trying to keep that gap closed. And it looks like Mano was right, because it seems as if the gap is increasing. Yeah, you can do it. Alright, so we're just gonna go up front just so we can give Sharkman a little bit of a highlight and just show you exactly how far ahead he is of the rest of the pack. So this is your second lap, and right now Sharkman is leading the group, and behind we have Zambezi, Delroy, Kylan, and James. So as you can see, quite a bit of a distance. And here we have the lone cyclist in front, the one and only Sharkman. Okay, it looks like they gave him some kind of tool. He's doing some kind of work on his bike. I don't know if something may have slackened up a bit or if he's making a slight adjustment, but not really the ideal time to be doing that now. Look like he's making some adjustments to his handlebar. If the guys well aware of it, this would be a good time for them to try to close back in the group, but they're still quite some distance behind. Yeah, should be. So normally in the Tour de France, you would normally see the mechanic would be the one leaning over to the car, trying to assist in any way possible. But right now, Sharkman is doing both. He's being a cyclist and he's also being a mechanic, making some adjustment on his bike. Look like he's still having some problems. And the guys look like they were able to close in the gap a little bit. Okay, good. Alright, so Sharkman, try to see if you could pick up the pace from here.
What happened to you, partner? What happened to you? The neck?
Okay.
Tighten it?
Alright, so Sharkman just said that his neck is slack, so that was a problem.
They have a problem to come up. Only some busy that pull it, so don't worry.
So he said that his neck was slack. He tried to tighten it, but it looks like he's having the mechanical. Look like he wasn't able to get it done. He's shaking his head.
Just right, just how you riding, you're good.
So a bit unfortunate for Sharkman, but we'll see if he would be able to continue the race on the bike in his current issue. But he did indicate that the neck was slack. I saw they looked like they gave him some Allen keys and he was trying to tighten something on the bike, but seemed a little bit frustrated just now because I guess he wasn't able to get it tightened the way he would have liked it. But he's still continuing the race, so we'll just have to wait and see if he'll be able to continue like this.
Sometimes when you have those things,
Mm-hmm.
it's better to just stop
And do it, yeah.
Yeah, it takes more time.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are seeing the other cyclists in the rearview mirror, but still quite a distance away. So Shortman still maintaining a comfortable lead ahead of the four cyclists behind. As we said before, he seems as if he does have a mechanical issue with the bike, where he said that his neck is a bit slack, so that might be interfering with the steering of the bike a bit. But looks like he's still able to continue the race. Okay, so just to give you an idea of the distance, Shotman is now making his way out of the Jeremiah Highway, passing the stoplight, and the guys are right now on the bottom of the hill, making their way up. So still maintaining quite a lead on the rest of the group, and making his way now to complete his second lap, and then they'll have 4 more laps to go. So still quite a lot of racing to go, so a lot of changes can happen. But right now, Shortman is the one that's leading the race by himself. Was able to create a gap in the group just ahead of where we are now, and since then was able to maintain it. So we have Shortman to the front, and then we have 4 other cyclists in the second pack, which I believe would have been led by Zambezi, Delroy, Kylan, and James. Oh. Yeah. Okay. So I'm hearing that Zambezi might be attacking the group to the back. So I'll just have to wait for some confirmation, and then I'll update you. I guess Zambezi is getting frustrated that he might be the only one doing all the work. So he's probably just going to try to get rid of the guys and try to close back in the gap to Shortman himself, if that is his plan. But quite a lead here by Shortman. Quite a lead. The guys are just coming over the hill by the stoplight, and Shortman is already almost to the roundabout. So it looks as if the lead might actually be increasing. We have Shortman just taking some glances back to see if he could monitor where the cyclists are behind him, but I'm sure once he would have seen that they're nowhere in sight, he would know that he has quite a comfortable lead. Yeah, yeah. Okay, no problem. Alright, so we're still following the race leader, Shortman. Just heading to the stoplight now to make his way back down to Blind Point and then back to the start finish line. And so what we're gonna do when we get to the start finish line, we'll just make a stop so we can do a time to see what the gap is, and then we'll report that back to you, just to get an idea as to how far ahead Shortman is in front of the other cyclists, and then we'll be able to get an update as to whether or not the group is still made up of the 4 cyclists or if any of them was able to get out of that group. But looking in the rearview mirror, not able to see any of them, so Shortman is maintaining quite a lead on the other cyclists. So he would be now going in to complete his second lap, and then he would have 4 more laps to go on the Jeremiah Southwell Blind Point loop.
got a big gap. Just relax and ride. You have a big gap. Gap is not one, time.
Yeah.
You need to know.
Yeah. So just giving him a little update because we were kind of blocking his view when he was looking back. So just wanted to give him an idea as to where the other guys are. Alright, so we're heading back to the Jeremiah. You got out there? Alright, so we'll just try to get a time. Yeah, I guess anyway. Stopwatch. Okay, start now. Alright, so we just started. Okay, so we're just gonna give you a time to see how far behind the other cyclists are. No sign of them in the rear view mirror as yet, but Shortman is making his way up the road. Alright, so I am seeing the cyclist behind us now, and so far it's 2 seconds. So it looks like he has at least a minute and some on these four trailing cyclists. So 1 minute would have just passed. And here they are passing us now, so it's about 1 minute and 16 seconds is the gap between the trailing group of 4 cyclists and the leading cyclist, which is Shortman. So these guys are now starting their third lap, and once they complete this one, they would have three more to go. Alright, so we still have the 4 cyclists together. Currently led by Delroy, Zambezi, Kylan, and James. And no one really making any real effort to try to close in that gap to Zambezi. So I guess these guys, they don't really have a plan. So it looks like we might have a clear winner from early in the race, bearing there's no mechanical that would slow Shortman down. So just a reminder, Shortman has about 1 minute and 18 seconds at the last check.
this S1 there.
Yeah. So no sense of urgency from anyone in this group right now to try to close down the gap. We'll have to wait to see if maybe Zambezi might decide to go off on his own to see if he could try to close in the gap, but so far he seems to be content just staying with the group. And the same for Delroy, Kylan, and James. I believe the strongest cyclist in this group, if anybody was to try to make a getaway, it probably would be Zambezi, because I believe Zambezi would be the strongest cyclist in this group right now. And in my opinion, you know, if the group isn't really helping you to close in the gap, if you're the only one that's really making an effort, then it would make sense to just stay to the back of the group till you can catch your legs, and then, you know, at some point just attack them and, you know, try to go and try to do the work on your own. Because staying in this group is probably just going to be slowing him down if no one else is really making an effort to try to close back in short, man. And with the pace that they're setting now, you can see why Short Man is maintaining the lead that he has. Because I would consider this just a moderate pace. And Short Man is out there by himself, and if they could work together and, you know, everybody was to do their part, they still could close in the gap, because they do have about 3 more laps to go after this one is completed. So still quite a lot of distance to cover. Okay, looks like Delroy is checking out. Zambezi closing, trying to close the gap. And Kylan and James, a little bit of a gap being created. So it looks like we might have another split in the group. So maybe if Delroy and Zambezi get away, maybe they can work together in trying to close back in short man. But right now, James and Kylan trying to close back in the gap, but
That's it for them.
yeah. Yeah, look like these guys are just about ready to give up. So we have another split in the group. So we have Delroy and Zambezi ahead of James and Kylan right now. And Shortman still way ahead of everyone else. Somewhere to the front of the group. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like Kylan and James were able to close back in the group. So these four cyclists are back together. There was a gap created by Delroy and Zambezi for a bit, but Kylan and James were able to get claw their way back to close back in that gap. But again, no closer to the leader, which is Shortman, which I believe should be quite a way ahead of these guys by now. Might possibly be making his way down to the stoplight. The last check we did was about 1 minute and 18 seconds. And that was at the start finish line. So maybe he has about 2 minutes on them by now. So the four cyclists behind are now making their way down to Blowing Point. They just passed the Adrian T. Hazel Primary School. And I just saw Delroy putting his hand in the air like he's asking for some water. So I believe the support car might be going up to see if they can give him some water. He should make his way to the back of the group though, so that he's clear of any other cyclists when they're ready to hand him the water. So he's trying to hand him his bottle, but it's
Hey! That's why he ain't coming to the back. Look how he did it. Why don't bring up your head and give me by the back? Now you get in trouble. You're taking off so fast to give paid, is it?
yeah. Alright, so he was able to get his water. So back to the start finish line. These guys are now completing their third lap. So they have 3 more laps to go. Stop, stop, stop. Oh, there's a car behind, okay. Here we have Zambezi asking the group to take turns to the front, trying to encourage them to work together. But I believe some of these guys might be close to their limit right now. And just happy to be taking a free ride. Not contributing a whole lot. So no sign of short man ahead. So I believe he would have increased that gap quite a bit. Still have quite a distance to go, but as the laps start to wind down, the chances of these guys closing in on him is going to be a lot less. So here we have James now making an effort. Followed by Zambezi, Delroy and Kylan in the sofa seat. Okay, so we actually can see Short Man. He's just up the road on the Jeremiah Highway. So I believe if the guys, now that the guys are seeing this, maybe this might help them to continue maintaining the pace to see if they can close in the group. He is all alone and they have 4 cyclists together, so they do have a bit of an advantage. But everybody would have to play their part, if they are going to be able to catch him. But seeing the distance now, it might be possible that they can close in the group, so we'll see what happens. So we have Zambize trying to direct the guys into trying to work together. He's asked Delroy to come up and take a pull so that he can go in the back and just catch himself a little bit. Throwing some water on his body just to cool it down. The temperature is quite hot. Delroy, not sure if he was trying to signal to somebody to do something. Okay, so we have a support car going up.
No problem.
Oh wow, no, no. So the guys are all trying to get their bottles refilled. James asking for some Coke.
One pool and one.
Yeah. Just passing a master cyclist or sports cyclist. I guess he's doing his laps. So the guys are on their 4th lap now. They have 2 more to do after this. So we have the support car just going up now to hand the bottles back to the cyclists. Alright, so the guys are back in South Hill now and they're heading towards Blowing Point to complete their fourth lap, and then they'll have 2 more laps to go. When we get to the Jeremiah Highway, we should be able to see if we can gauge the distance back to Shortman, who's leading the group. We were able to see him ahead, but we haven't seen him since we got to George La South Hill. But there are a lot more corners on this part of the loop. And here we have now James being distanced a bit by the 3 other cyclists. Let's see if he'll be able to make his way back to them. Kyle unable to hold on to Delroy and Zambezi. So Delroy is the one that's leading out the 3 cyclists ahead right now. And still quite a distance behind Shortman, who is leading the race for the elite category. Alright, so James was able to close back in the group. Alright, so at the stoplight, and making a left turn to Blind Point, and then back to the start finish line for the Jeremiah, where they'll start their second to last lap. Alright, so we're back on Jeremiah Highway. Guys are heading back to the start finish line for the completion of the 4th lap. Now starting their 5th lap. And then they'll have one more to go after that. Send it to Melissa. Okay, so the gap hasn't really grown. We just did a time check, and Shortman now has 1 minute and 15 seconds. So that would have been basically the same time gap after the 2nd lap. So still maintaining the same distance. It's quite a bit of a gap, but I think if these guys can really make an effort and push hard, you know, they should be able to close that in quite a bit. They have 2 more laps to do it, so they will have to make sure they try to close in half of that distance with this, at least before the end of this lap. Otherwise, if they don't do it, I don't think they'll be able to do it in 1 lap. So Slav Zambizi here doing the groundwork. Just asked Kylan to come and pace his bike a little bit. Delroy is in the white jersey, James in the blue and white jersey, and Zambizi in the back of the group. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so we're just gonna make our way back up to Shortman. We can see him in the distance. He's about 1 minute and 15 seconds ahead. So we'll just leave these guys for a bit and go up to Shortman, so you can give him a bit of a highlight. Yeah. So while the time is sound short, 1 minute and 15 seconds is quite a bit of a gap, and as you can see, you should be able to judge for yourself as we close into Shortman. Yeah. Yeah. Alright, so that Shortman just ahead of us. So quite a lead, and I believe it could be safe to say now that unless he doesn't get a flat on mechanical, I believe we're looking at the winner of this race. I think even if he gets a flat, he has some support bicycles with some spare wheels next to him, and I believe the gap would give him enough time to make a wheel change and still maintain a comfortable lead where he can win the race by quite a distance. So that's him just ahead of the two motorcyclists and behind the police car.
Hold on your side. You got to film the show. What? I say you shift on the side, we got to film. No. He just put up your hand and you go for give him. We ain't getting no water.
Wing on, wing on.
We ain't got none then.
So leader short man heading to the Georgia stoplight. From there, it'll be downhill after he passes the other stoplight straight to the start finish line on the Jeremiah Highway, and then he'll be starting his final lap where he should be taking first place in this race. He's just looking back to see if he can gauge where his competitors are, but when I look back in the rearview mirror, no one is in sight, so still maintaining his lead of a minute and at least 15 seconds, if not more by now. There we have shot man grimacing a bit, trying to keep on the pressure, maintaining that. One more lap to go after this one is completed. It's going to be all decline after he passes the roundabout till he gets to the start finish line. No sign of the other four cyclists in the rearview mirror. So short man can just cruise and for the remainder of the lap and comfortably win this race. So one more lap to go after this, and right now he's just passing the Dragon Disco and he's making his way to the stoplight in Lower Southall, where he'll make a left turn into Blind Point and then another left turn onto the Jeremiah Highway, and then he'll start his final lap before winning the 2022 National Cycling Race for Anguilla. Alright, so Shortman is heading back to the start finish line, and he's going to be doing this one more time. And after that, he'll be raising his hand as the new 2022 National Cycling Champion for Anguilla. So here he is now on the Jeremiah Highway, getting ready to pass the start finish line to do this one more time, and then will be crowned with the first place position. No sign of the other cyclist as yet, so I believe it is safe to say that he does have this in the bag by quite a comfortable distance. Yeah, you can stay with him, yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. So this is the final lap, ladies and gentlemen. The final lap for Shortman. Still has quite a comfortable lead, maintaining a pace of about 30 kilometers per hour. And here we see he's calling for his support car. I guess he's probably needs some water. Still looking very comfortable, very fresh, doesn't look too tired. Still maintaining a very good pace. Maintaining a good cadence on his bike. Not too hard a gear, but not too easy. Shortman is still looking back to see if he sees the other cyclist. But I believe by now he should know that he probably has this race in the bag. Assuming he doesn't get a flat or a mechanical on this last lap. So just as an update, Shortman actually had 2 minutes on the group on the last lap, so he actually did increase the distance between himself and the second group. So it went from 1 minute and 15 seconds to 2 minutes, so quite a comfortable lead indeed. going to be quite interesting to see him compete in the John T race in the coming weeks, to see what his performance is going to be like against the others. I believe we should have some other cyclists joining, some other national cyclists that should be coming back home to join, such as Hassani. Hopefully some other cyclists from the region should also be coming to compete in that race. But Shortman looking very well, very strong, very comfortable. Was able to deliver quite a blow on the other cyclists. Was attacking them from the very beginning, testing their legs, and when he saw the moment, he jumped on it and he was able to get a gap on the group, and they were never able to close him back since. So he has been leading the race since the first lap and was able to maintain it 1 minute and 15 seconds, and on the final lap he was able to increase it to 2 minutes, and now he is on his way home to seize the crown as the national 2022 national champion for Anguilla. So Shortman has been on the cycling scene for quite a while, and he would have used that experience and knowledge to help him to dominate this race. So right now he's making his way to the halfway point of the loop, where he'll be soon passing the Georgian stoplight, and then from there he'll be homebound back to the Jeremiah Highway. So fortunate for him, the mechanical he had with the slack neck didn't really affect him too bad. He was able to continue on the bike, even though he said he was having some problems making the adjustment to tighten it. But obviously he's still in the race and he's winning the race. And here he is now passing the stoplight. And from here he'll be heading back to South Hill, back to Blowing Point, and then passing the start finish line once more to complete his race. No sign of the other cyclists at all in the back. So the 4 cyclists in the back would be Zambezi, Delroy, James, and Kylan. So there were 5 elite cyclists in all, and we have the winner ahead of us in short man.
The one them in front there.
Who's that?
Them fellas, what you
Oh.
even if it's good to finish. Them in the back, that's all.
So 2 more right turns for Shortman. He's gonna be making the first one at a stoplight. It'll be all downhill until he reaches the Jeremiah Highway Blowing Point Junction, and then he'll be making the second right turn. He'll be heading home to the start finish line to claim his prize as national champion. No sign of the other cyclists anywhere close by, so Shortman can stop pedaling his bike from here and cruise all the way down to the start finish line, and they still wouldn't be able to catch him. So it was a great race by Shortman, very tactical. He knew exactly what he was doing from the very beginning. He used his experience and was able to get an advantage early in the race and was able to maintain that lead. And now he is the new 2022 National Cycling Champion. Well done, Shortman.
Tell this fella. Aye, 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 forget again. The race going to finish. They cannot get water there again. Yeah, you want to walk?
Themselves was Shortman, quite a comfortable win here, and here he is on the last stretch, going to the start finish line, up on his bike, putting on a show for the crowd, as he'll be going in to take first place in the 2022 National Cycling Race for Anguilla. And here we have it, ladies and gentlemen, our winner, the one and only Shortman. Everybody's giving him a big round of applause. Great job. Alright, so we'll just make a turn around and we'll go back to look for the other cyclists, seeing that they're so far behind, so that we can capture those positions on film as well.
For first place in the novice, we have Jason Hodge. Second place, we have Aaron Hodge. And second place, we have Mackie. Sorry, third place, we have Mackie Gums. McDonald Gums, better known as Mackie. We call him Dimitri Niles. Dimitri Niles in first place for the cadets. Next category, we deal with the juniors. We have Kaden Bryan. Kaden Bryan, first place for the category, for the novice category. large cut. The red large cut. It was two cycles to this category, and the other cyclist did not complete, so therefore um, qualify for this event. For the elite, we calling Carter Fleming in third place, Zambia in second, and Sharon Osborne, aka Shotman, in fourth. So we see you again, and our next race will be on July 10th at West Park, Elizabeth Avenue, for John Memorial Race. You are the participants from other countries. Thank you again for participating.
Showing Osborne, also known as Shotman. Shotman, today was a brutal race. I know the conditions with the weather, the sun was extremely hot, but you were able to separate yourself from a group of four guys. What was the mindset going into the race today?
I see the mindset was to ride at least 10 miles to see who is who. And after start to go. But all in all, they had two guys basically was working in the back. You work together, and I didn't do it alone. So it was to them because knowing if they had really worked together, they would have fetched me. But nevertheless, I must give thanks to them. All in all, I still have to like nevertheless. The heat and the sun stuff wasn't too bad.
I've been watching your progress on Strava as of late. I've seen you put extra miles and the distance and so forth. Is this the best condition that you've had for the last 3 or 4 years?
Yes, it is. We saw that I had two crashes in 1 month. That really set me back. But nevertheless, my aim is to do good in the Jaunty race. Like, not do good, I want to win it because I'm younger. So I need to win it.
Are we gonna publicize that you can be our Chanti 2022 winner this year?
Cause
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you have it here first from XA Live that this could be our first national champion and our also first Chanti of our national champion and Chanti possibly champion for 2022. So, partner are the best for the Chanti, which will be July 10th, starting early. Wish you all the best, and we hope that you can have the same kind of outcome that you had this today.
thank you very much. Appreciate you guys giving us that time too.
Always a pleasure. Delroy, or that's it? Delroy, interview. One of our favorite cyclists, Delroy Carter, a very strong cyclist. Unfortunately, today he did not podium. Exactly the thing transfer that basically separated you from the rest of the guys because I know the big race, no, you guys were all there, but there seemed to be some sort of separation, and there were 3 or 4 guys that were trying to work together, or they were not working together. Was it a cooping game? Was it a chess game? What was it?
I would say it's just level of fitness. The different level of strength shows day. I wouldn't want to blame it on my recovery or stress or work, but I'm now coming up to the next race that's coming up. I have 2 weeks of properly use 2 weeks for good preparation. So I know what mistakes I did going into this race, so try not to make the same mistake going to the next race. But at the end of the day, I'm very pleased and happy with my performance. I know I could do better in certain areas. I just have to better prepare myself for it.
How do you feel? I've been monitoring you as well on Strava. I've been seeing that you put in some good distance. Um, your fitness level, do you feel that you're the best right now? Do you feel there's some stuff to be improved? Is it your diet? What do you think that can actually give you that extra nudge to be competitive to be, let's say, possibly champion? And we know last year we had a I think some busy one, and the year before was Hassani. And seeing that chart mentally, and I know you train with him sometime. So, what are the possibilities that we can have maybe a 1, 2, 3 in Janti this year for Anguilla?
That's a strong possibility because I wouldn't say Anguilla is at its fittest. They got a strong possibility Anguilla could get a 1, 2, and 3. They have a very strong possibility. Going into the race, just prepare mentally, physically, recovery, and especially recover, not just recover from training, but work and other stuff. But I know him shortcomings and just not make the same mistakes.
Okay, well, thank you, David. Right, I wish you all the best for Janti, which is next 2 weeks. Make sure you have that diet in place and getting enough rest. And I think the liquid also plays a very important role. So make sure stay hydrated and we watch out for the salt and so forth. So all the best for next week. Look forward to seeing a very good and productive race.
Thanks, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the end of the national race, and wish you guys all the best. And looking forward to seeing you guys next 2 weeks, where we're gonna have the Janti Memorial, and it promises to be